Good morning. I'm Michelle Reynolds, Business Development Manager with Associate Principal Management Group of North Texas. Welcome to my Coffee Talk Tuesday. Today, we will be discussing why less is best when refining your rules and regulations. So let's coffee talk about it. Here's a challenge I have for you. Go grab your current set of rules and regulations. Now, pretend you are a brand new homeowner who really wants to work with the board and management by actually reading this package of rules. What is your first impression and opinion of what you just read? Was all that reading helpful? Did you understand it? Did you feel like some or most of the information you read really didn't apply to your community? Far too many associations have created rules and regulations that seem old, wordy, and sometimes conflicting with each other with little sense of organization and order. They may have been frequently updated as each new board may have encountered a new situation that the directors felt required another rule. Community association practitioners know the consequence. Pages and pages of hard to understand and hard to enforce rules that might have been relevant at one time, however, are no longer valid and are just ignored. Here are some steps that you can take to refine your rules and regulations so that they are more effective. Define the outcome you want. For example, if you want to have front lawns free of dog feces, tell the dog owners that is their responsibility. Be certain that the topic is important enough for the association to invest its time and effort into. Would you or your neighbors really care about a rule if the board had to spend legal fees to enforce it? Is the style of the front door knocker really worth fighting over in court? Confirm that the association and board have the authority to enforce a particular rule. Your governing documents, state laws, and court decisions will be your sources. For example, there continues to be rules prohibiting satellite dishes in non-condominium properties that suggest that the association has far more authority to control those devices than they actually have under the FCC regulations. When possible, write the rule in a constructive, clear manner in layman's terms so it says what you want to happen. And as often as possible, try to minimize the no's and nots. For example, you could say that bicycle riding is permitted only in the streets instead of saying that no bicycle riding is allowed on the sidewalks or common areas. Keep the wording simple. Don't think of it as government legislation or believe that the more wordy you make it, the more likely it will be followed. If you can control vehicles, say that only vehicles with current licenses and inspection stickers are permitted on the paved portions of your property. Sweet, simple, and to the point. When effective, consolidate. For example, after drafting the rules and regulations, you still have a number of issues that your residents cannot do, and you don't want to list them as don'ts, one right after another. Allow one section that says all of the following are not allowed by the association. Eliminate those rules that have never been enforced or are irrelevant. For example, if the declaration already prohibits clotheslines or dog kennels, then skip them in the rules. Confirm each rule is truly enforceable. Check with your association's attorney to make sure that the rule is valid and reasonable. Add the catchphrase that imposes the obligation of all residents to be reasonable and respectful of neighbors, and explain that what they do or leave outside their home affects their community's property value, because that is the criteria the board or the committee will use in its enforcement. This phrase gives the board the ability to address unique situations not specifically covered by its new set of shorter and more understandable rules. My final thought. Enforcing rules and regulation is one of a community association's most important responsibilities and greatest sources of angst. Often, the conflict created between neighbors is of greater consequence than the original rule violation. Taking the steps discussed will help reduce the chances of these conflicts by approaching the rules development process from a reasonable perspective. Thank you for joining me. I hope you join me next Tuesday. As board president, Mark has asked, is there a downside to reserve studies besides the cost? What are the benefits? So we're going to coffee talk about that next Tuesday. Have a wonderful day. Make it count and be kind out there.